Hey, 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 Speak Easy podcast listeners. I am super excited to come to you with this episode because let's be honest. When you hear PR, you kind of cringe a little bit because you feel like it's this big mystical thing that you can't grab a hold of. It's a dinosaur, it's a dragon, but in all actuality, it is something that is necessary if you are building a foundation for you to be able to market and brand your business and brand yourself. And so I'm super excited to be here and to be talking with my guest for today. Hello, Liz. How are you?
Well, hello, and thank you for having me.
This is going to be a great conversation because I can be very transparent in saying that in the beginning, I was so fearful of the idea of PR because I felt like actresses and actors needed PR. Me, as a little business owner getting started, what did I need PR for? So before we jump into this conversation, Liz, introduce yourself to the studio audience.
Absolutely. Well, I think your introduction is great because PR can be hard, it can be overwhelming. And when I first got into it, it was actually because I was writing a dating book and I had been stranded in New York City after 9/11. I was a stranded business traveler. I had all these clients in New York. And a friend of mine said to me, write down what happened, right? So it was like a journal. I wrote it down and that got me into writing. 3 months later, I get laid off, like everybody's getting laid off. So I say, okay, I'm going to write that book that I never wrote, but I didn't know what topic. So anyway, I write a dating book because I was called Dr. Liz in high school, which is a whole nother story. But then I just went to book marketing seminars and got media coaches and hired publicists and really just embellished it and I found that I was really good at it. But I had plenty of disasters, plenty of learning moments, and that went on for 5 years. It was 3 different versions. I eventually got a agent and a publisher in New York. I self-published the first version. But the reason why it progressed was because of the PR, because the self-publisher, people were looking at this book saying, how did she get on national TV? And it was because I had hired a publicist. And so that's kind of my background. And then you fast forward, I go back to the corporate world, work at Paramount Pictures, work at MySpace, get laid off at the beginning of the Great Recession in 2008. And I said, that's it. That's it. Enough. I'm doing this for other people now. I'm going to start my own company. And I worked for 1 year for free, which I did a lot of work with the Rich Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad with that group. But now, 14 years later, 2 of my clients were in that room where I first met them at a conference. So it all has worked out, but it is hard in the beginning.
Oh my goodness. And that has been one heck of a journey for sure. And I know that, again, a lot of people in the beginning, there is just the idea of, okay, what is the foundation of PR? Like when you think of PR, people kind of their minds wander all over the place. But when you say PR, what do you want them to understand as just the nuts and bolts of it?
Well, I think there's really, we'll say 3 different things. Number 1, you need a wow story, which is what makes you unique, what makes you different, what's going to make you stand out. Number 2, then you have to be able to take that wow story and pitch the media. And then number 3, you have to land the interview, maximize it with magic. And that's where media coaches are so great and publicists are so great to help you maximize it so that when you get to showtime, you are a big hit.
I love how you describe that. Maximize it with magic. Because you have so many people that think the magic is the clothes that I wear, the magic is some of these other things that really don't have a significant, place in that magic. So what would you say is that magic?
Well, the magic really goes back with the wow story, which is your foundation, but it's also your delivery, your tone of voice, your colors, your expressions. Can you deliver a line? Everybody says, okay, we don't want to do something scripted. And I never recommend scripted, but you do want to have bullet points before you have an interview, so at least you know what you want to talk about. So let me give you an example of a wow story that had magic. So I work with an addiction center. They work with military veterans and first responders, and they have a canine unit, right? So they can work with the service dogs, and then they can adopt them when they leave addiction training. And throughout the conversations with the canine trainer, I learned that it takes 120 hours to train a dog one service behavior. So what that means is if you have, say, a veteran and they have PTSD and they shake their leg, to get that dog to come up and put their paw on the guy's leg and stop the shaking, that takes 120 hours to teach the dog how to do that. Now, the woman, also the canine trainer, she is a former zookeeper, so that adds to her magic because she just has this great story of working with animals. But she also has PTSD herself, and she has problems with nightmares. And she has her own service dog, and her service dog has been trained to wake her up in the middle of nightmares. And then to top it off, I asked her to film a video that was kind of a role play of her dog waking her up. So we had that video to offer the media. So that was a wow story that the media said yes to immediately, because also, P.S., and we can talk about this more, you want to look for special dates that you can tie your story into. And it was, now, whoever heard of that? But we found it. We found it on a calendar that it was National Dog Training Month. And so the local ABC affiliate in San Antonio said yes immediately when they heard the wow story, and then it was tied to this event.
Okay, Speakeasy podcast listeners, if you did not write that down, hit pause, rewind, go back, write that down. Because so many times we think, oh my goodness, the wow story, we think, okay, we can just tell our story, and we don't have that training, because there is training when it comes to being the speaker and doing the interviews. There is training. Because it's interesting, people look at me and they go, well, you say you're an introvert, but you don't act like you're an introvert when you're on stage or when you're speaking or even when you're doing the podcast. I said that comes from the time. We talk about the 10,000 hours, right? That comes from the times of me going ahead and showing up. But it also comes from training and learning from people like Liz, you guys.
Well, and I think it's also good to, this is why a publicist can really help you, is you want to run it by somebody else, because everybody has a cool business, right? That's why you're in business. You're passionate about what you're doing. But to get to that wow, it's not about you. It's about how can you educate or entertain the audience. That's really important. Write that down. Educate or entertain the audience. So in the case of it takes 120 hours to train a service dog one behavior, that's education. But the entertaining part also is the video of her dog waking her up in the middle of the night when she's having a nightmare. So you have to think about visuals for TV, not so much for print or radio, but for TV, that visual is what got it over the finish line to them saying yes.
That part is so important, guys, because again, people learn and people hear from you different ways, from what they see, from what they hear, from what they can touch at times. And so that takes me into a whole nother piece, because another part of this is the book. That's part of your whole plan. That's part of your whole process. So can you speak to that a little bit as well?
Absolutely. Well, a lot of people don't know, but you could probably guess that the average attention span of an adult is 8 seconds. So our book is called 8-Second PR because you have to get to the point immediately. I say you want to be clear, concise, and compelling. And so it's an 8-step process. It's how to do your own PR. And it's being used by actually 2 colleges right now as their PR communications textbook. And it's got tons of examples like the one about the service dog. And I'll give you just one other example. It was a small business owner. She came to me and she said, Liz, I cannot afford to hire your company, Goody PR. And so I said, okay, read my book, 8-Second PR. It'll tell you what to do. Now, you have to have a lot of gumption to make this work, but she had a lot of gumption. And 6 months later, she was on Fox 11 Los Angeles. That's the second biggest media market in the country behind New York, about her CBD new product. She had 5 people in her new company. They sat around with this book, came up with their wow story, and came up with a way that they could help other people. That's another key thing. So they came up with, during the pandemic, that they were going to have free wellness workshops and give away free samples of their product, right? So it wasn't about them. It was about how they were going to help their audience for free and give something away for free. So Fox got all excited, right? And said, okay, we'll cover this, but we don't have a camera person. And because of the tips in the book, that I say, make it easy for the media, do the media's work. She said, no problem. We have a camera person. We'll hire somebody to do it. And then we'll just send you the video. And so that's exactly what she did. She went out and hired somebody, and then they had a feature story, and it was about 3 minutes. It ran twice. It was worth $40,000 in calculated publicity value. And that's based on a Nielsen media report that I get with video orders. If you're on TV, you can order a copy of the video. So I order it. I get the Nielsen media report. It tells you when it ran, where it ran, the audience size, and then the calculated publicity value, which is based on the ad value. And what they do is they take the ad value and they multiply it times 3, because earned media is worth 3 times the value of paid media, right? So she got $40,000 worth of publicity plus $10,000 in product sales from one interview. And she said people are still calling and say they saw her on this TV show. So that's the beauty of the book. It does take gumption, but it will walk you through how to do your wow story, how to pitch the media, how to make the magic happen when you get on TV, and how to do the follow-up and reinvent your story. That's another thing. You want to be able to reinvent your story because they may say no. And it's just like sales. You have to keep going back with a new angle.
Oh, that part. Speakeasy podcast listeners, y'all. I know we jam pack so much into our small episodes. It's because I want you to make sure that you're getting the meat and you're able to get some things that you can definitely take action on. And so, listen, you may not be able to work with Liz directly, but go and get the book. Go and get the book. Why? Because again, it is going to take discipline, because you are going to have to read the book. We're not getting it just to have it sit on the shelf. But also, once you learn it, now I can repeat it.
Exactly. And I'll tell you the big secret about the book. The conclusion is a summary you can read in 10 minutes of the whole book. And then you can go back and decide what you want to read. So that's the big secret.
That's smart. I love that. Y'all, this has been an amazing episode. Liz, let them know how they can get the book and how they can reach out to you if they are interested in working with you.
Absolutely. Well, it's Liz H. Kelly everywhere on social media. And for the book, you can just go to 8secondpr.com, 8secondpr.com, or find it on Amazon. And please, 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 I have to beg, write a review, because reviews matter to authors. Anybody out there who's an author, You got to beg for reviews. And I am shameless. I am shameless.
Most definitely. I love that. And as an Amazon influencer, I always love like sharing out books. Like I try to like push them in every once and again to get them out there as well, because I know that that's an important piece when it comes to being the author. I know that as someone who's published 20 books. And so trust me, I make sure that I show up in any way possible for other authors as well. So Speakeasy podcast listeners, make sure you get the book, make sure you leave a review, and also let us know if this episode resonated with you by leaving us a review on your favorite podcasting platform, or you can go ahead and message me directly on Instagram. I would love to hear from you at Outsweets Unmuted. Y'all, I love doing these episodes because listen, I grow, you grow. That's what it's about. With that being said, I appreciate each and every one of you. And until next time, don't forget to press it out. See ya.